Episode 7. This is your class syllabus. They're pretty self-explanatory. Take one before you leave the classroom. Feel free to come to the studio or send me an email if you have any questions, and if not, I'll see you next week. Everyone let out a happy cheer as Mr. Hayes dismissed the class. He's such a cool teacher. I like him already. Carrie told me as she packed her things into her backpack. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded as if I agreed. Carrie and I walked to his desk and grabbed the class syllabus. We were about to head for the door when he called out to me. "Miss Sinclair, may I have a moment with you before you go?" His tone sounded serious. I gulped instantly. "Go ahead, Car. I'll see you tomorrow." I motioned for Carrie to leave, and she nodded. "See you tomorrow, M." After saying goodbye to Carrie, I walked back slowly to his desk. He was sitting on the chair behind it, arranging some papers and books. I purposefully waited until everyone had left before I started to speak. "Hi," was all that I could muster up. He looked up at me, and his gaze bored into mine. He gritted his teeth, and he looked completely angry. "So, I guess you remember me?" I blabbed. "You're a high school student?" His tone was flat and cold. "Yes." I gave him a small, shy smile, but he wasn't amused. He stood up tall and walked around the desk until he was facing me. "You were at a college bar, and you were drinking. I thought you were at least 21. He spoke finally after a while of silence. Wow, did I actually look that old? I didn't mean to be a smart mouth, but I cracked jokes whenever I got nervous. Though now didn't seem like a good time. "That's not the point," he hissed. "You look mad." "I am mad," he growled lowly, and I took a step back in response. "What the hell, Emma? What were you doing at a bar, getting drunk and dressed like that?" he said again, and now he was sounding too much like an adult.
I didn't like that.
"It was my birthday, okay? We were celebrating, but whatever, it's none of your business," I spat. "None of my business? Do you realize what we did was wrong? I could get fired. No, I could get arrested." "No, you won't," I said quickly. "I'm at a consenting age, and you're 20-something. Last I checked, it's perfectly legal in the state of Georgia. You weren't my teacher when we first met, so that doesn't count. We did nothing wrong, you're good." He let out a deep sigh, but his face was still stern. He didn't say anything for the longest time, and he just studied my face. It was getting unbearable. "What were you doing at a college bar anyway?" "I thought you were a student," I said to him to break the awkward silence. I was celebrating with friends that I just finished grad school, and I got a job teaching here. He made sure I heard that last part right. "Oh," I mouthed. "Damn it, I knew you were inexperienced, but I didn't peg you for a high school student," he said suddenly, letting out a deep, frustrated breath. Inexperienced. Somehow I felt offended. I thought I did a pretty good job considering it was my first time. "Forget I said that. Just forget all this mess, whatever this is," he said as he raked his hair with his hand and walked away. But of course, he didn't know it was my first time. And this was probably not the right time to mention that either. "So, what now?" I asked cautiously. "Nothing," he replied quickly. "It was a stupid mistake, and it will never happen again." "Right," I said bitterly. "Now that we've established that we haven't done anything illegal in the past, present, and future, can I be excused?" I asked him, pausing for a moment before adding, "Mr. Hayes?" He looked taken aback by what I just said. He didn't say anything for a while, but finally, he nodded his head for an answer. "Goodbye, Mr. Hayes," I said one last time before exiting the room. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. I just kept thinking about that guy, Mr. Hayes. It felt so weird to have to call him that. I was debating whether or not I should tell Tiff and Carrie, but I decided I shouldn't do it. They would absolutely freak out, and I didn't want to deal with that. Whatever it was that happened with Mr. Hayes won't ever happen again, anyway. There was no use to mull over it. Yet somehow the thought of it never happening again made me feel empty. Before I knew who the bar guy was, he was my beautiful fantasy. He was the perfect distraction that helped me get over my breakup with Zach so quickly. I had fantasized that maybe someday I'd meet this gorgeous stranger again at another time and place. He would still look as sexy as ever, and he'd do me like he did before. It was a sweet and tantalizing thought. But all that fantasy was shattered now that I knew who he really was. My freaking art teacher. Could life be any more cruel? Out of all the people in the world, why did it have to be him? I trashed my head back on the pillow in anger. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, hoping I could erase everything with a good night's sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, I was seeing his face again. The way his eyes lit up and his sexy smirk, the tattoos running down his arm, his lush jet black hair, his chiseled, rock-hard body. All these thoughts were making me wet and needy. I decided that it was a futile effort trying to forget about him. I relented and gave into my burning desire instead. I took another deep breath as I pictured the way Mr. Hayes would look without his shirt on. I wondered if there'd be other tattoos on his body. I wished I'd gotten a better look at his huge penis. With these thoughts running through my head, I slowly slid my fingers under my panties. As images of him from that night reappeared, my breathing got harder, and I started stroking my clit with my finger. I tried mimicking what he was doing to me that night, but my fingers didn't feel quite as right. Still, I didn't want to stop. I was so restless and hungry for release. Relax, baby girl. His husky voice echoed in my ears. I remembered the feeling when Mr. Hayes was pinning me against the wall. He slammed his huge penis into me so hard, I wanted to cry. I felt my core loosening up around him, getting adjusted to his size. He then picked up his pace when I started to feel good about relaxed, and he started thrusting deeper and harder. I was sandwiched between the wall and his rock-hard body. The pain and pleasure were sending me over the edge. His thrusts were causing my body to slip up against the wall, and my one foot that was on the ground was practically floating. Mr. Hayes, I found myself moaning aloud. Please take me back to that night. Take me to that moment when his lips enveloped me possessively and passionately. I was kissing him back hard and hungrily. His nails dug deep into my skin, and I was practically pulling at his hair. He was slamming himself into me over and over again, rougher and harder each time, sending me to oblivion. I felt it again, the buildup racing through my veins. I pushed my legs tighter around his waist, signaling how much I wanted the release he could give me. He groaned lowly in response, but I could tell he liked it. His thrusts became more aggressive and brutal. My soft walls tightened around his thickness responsively. My body was under so much pain and pleasure, I had to close my eyes because it was just too much. I was moaning unintelligible words as his lips attacked my neck, sucking harshly on that sweet spot. And with that, we both came almost at the same time. My wet core clenched so hard around him, it made his thick cock pulsed in response. He slammed his whole length into me one last time as he come. He stayed inside me for a while as he let out a deep relieved sigh. Full story is available on shelfofnovels.com. Click the link in the comment section to get it free.